What's up, everybody? So I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. I'm still full. But anywho, so I was in my shop today, cleaning my shop out, and something came to mind, and I wanted to address something that I hear a lot in the automotive industry, especially in the automotive repair industry, is people talking about being ripped off. And it gets to me every now and then because I have to revamp my structure and rethink things and think and see if I'm ripping people off according to what being ripped off actually means. Now, the structure in which automotive repair shops charge is based on a national average, and I'm not going to get too far into it. I just wanted to kind of give you guys some information on how you can check to see if you're actually getting ripped off or if you're just paying the correct amount of money for the service that you're getting. Now, in my shop, the way that I charge is I try to keep my hourly rate as low as possible, and I try to use the best available parts, whether those be OEM or aftermarket or whatever. I try to stay away from the AutoZones and the Advance Autos and stuff like that and go with the very best part that I can go with. And sure, it's more expensive doing it that way. However, I can keep my labor rate low so that it kind of equals out. And in return, my customers get the best possible service, the best possible parts, at the best possible price. Now, I've seen it on several occasions where companies will charge an exorbitant labor rate, somewhere in the lines of $150 an hour, which to me, personally, in the state of Connecticut, our labor rates range anywhere from $70 an hour to $180 an hour, depending on the type of dealership or service area or service facility you go to. We're on the very low end of that mark here. But they will charge an exorbitant amount for labor, but use the cheapest, poorest quality parts I've ever seen, which in turn causes a ton of return visits for problems that should have been solved the first time with proper parts. Now, when I first started my business, I was using Advance Auto. And Advance Auto, their stuff was good for a while, and then all of a sudden their electronics, such as starters and alternators and stuff like that, were lasting less than a year, and my customers were returning within that year for me to replace the parts again. Now, granted, it was under warranty, but at the same point in time, who wants to have their car down at the mechanic all the time? So, are you getting ripped off with a super high labor rate and cheap parts? Yeah, kinda. Are you getting ripped off if you're going to a place that's got a high labor rate and they use good parts? Well, that all depends. Now, if you're spending $150 an hour for labor at a BMW dealership and you're getting BMW genuine parts, you know what? Those cars aren't easy to work on. The overhead of those dealerships is huge. So yeah, you're kind of paying for all that stuff. And it's to be expected to pay that kind of money. So, the big German dealerships, I haven't necessarily seen anybody getting ripped off. However, when it comes to the smaller dealerships, not smaller, but the more inexpensive, like Chevrolet, Ford, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, all those guys have this tactic that they use where they recommend services. Now, here's where the rip-off part comes into play. When you take your car in for service, let's just say you need to have your brakes done. Your car's at 60,000 miles. It's basically getting its first brake job if you drive normally. You take the car in and they turn around and they tell you, hey, we did your brakes, but you need an oil change, you need a transmission flush, you need an induction service to clean your induction system, you need AC service, you need power steering fluid flushed, you need your brake fluid flushed, usually to the tune of about $1,200 to $1,500. This is where you might be getting ripped off. A lot of people don't know this, and if you're watching this video, please go out and check this stuff if you're about to bring your car in for service. In your owner's manual, in the back of the owner's manual, there is a required maintenance section. In that maintenance section, it gives you a maintenance schedule. The maintenance schedule will tell you what the recommended maintenance intervals are for your vehicle as stated by the manufacturer of your vehicle. At no point in time should you let anyone else tell you that you need a service that is not required by what's in your manual. And obviously, yes, if something's broken, it needs to be fixed. So that's a totally different story. But if you're being offered brake fluid flushes and power steering fluid flushes and transmission flushes especially, look in your manual. If it says that you need to do a coolant flush at 100,000 miles and you're at 60,000, you don't need to do a coolant flush. No matter what that dealership or what that mechanic tells you, you don't need to do that stuff. It is super important for you guys to save as much money as you can. I know in this day and age that not a lot of us have a ton of money. I mean, we all work pretty much paycheck to paycheck. So if you can save a little bit of money on the service of your vehicle, then please, by all means, do so. But that is the number one spot where you will get ripped off. You will get ripped off by performing services that are not required to be performed as according to your owner's manual, which is put together by the manufacturer of the vehicle. So you all have to remember, too, that a dealership for a specific vehicle is not affiliated with the manufacturer. They are actually separate, privately owned entities that have a contract with that particular auto manufacturer. So, for instance, I'm sure you've all seen, and we have one right around here, we had a dealership that used to be Hart Chevrolet. That dealership was a Chevrolet dealership, and when Chevrolet went through and closed down a bunch of dealerships, Hart now sells Infiniti and Nissan and all kinds of other stuff. So they are a privately owned company. They do not determine what services your vehicle needs, the manufacturer does. So again, I can't stress this enough. If you don't want to get ripped off when you take your vehicle into a shop, make sure you're looking in your manual and seeing exactly what it requires for service at a given mileage rate. You will save a ton of money and you will be able to keep your car as operational as possible. Now, obviously, if you do not follow the manual and you go past the required intervals, you're opening yourself up for a whole lot of problems. Your car's going to fail miserably, and then it's going to cost you $1 million to fix it anyway. So, take a look in your manuals. Don't get ripped off. Don't let anybody tell you need service you don't need, and you'll be fine. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about on that. Like I said, I was cleaning the shop, and that kind of came to mind because I heard somebody talking about getting ripped off, and that's basically the deal. There are varying labor rates throughout the country. So if you are from, the middle of Tennessee somewhere, you might be paying $60 an hour. If you're in Fairfield County in Connecticut, you're paying $150 an hour to get your car fixed. You can't stop that from happening. These big shops have a lot of overhead to pay, so you're going to pay that in turn. Your best bet, quite honestly, find yourself a small shop that has a really good reputation, a really good word of mouth following, and meet the owner. If the owner is willing to talk to you, see what kind of person they are. See if he or she is a good person, if they seem like a trustworthy person and that you can go with them. That's your best bet. Dealerships are great, but again, they're privately owned. They make all their money off of service, so they're going to try to do everything that they possibly can to make sure that you do as much service to your vehicle as possible when you don't even really need to. So just be careful out there. Know your rights when it comes to that stuff. Know your car and read your manual. That's it. That's all there is to it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you with some probably more interesting content next week. Have a good one, guys.